Yeah.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, Major Crampton.
Good afternoon, Parsons.
So, as many people may know, this is your last semester here. Is that correct?
It is, unfortunately.
Going back into some more previous things of your Air Force career, how did you get started doing anything in the Air Force?
Doing anything in the Air Force. Well, one cold March morning in 1986. So I have my drive to do something Air Force related comes from a couple different factors. My dad was in the Air Force well before I was even a thought in his mind kind of deal. But when I was growing up, he would tell a lot of stories about being at Aviano and Ramstein, all the adventures he had. And he'd tell me he's a Vietnam vet, so he'd tell me about all these things he's seen across the world and pretty much traveling on the government's dime. That sounds like a pretty cool thing. So there was that. My brother had a roommate in college, so my brother's 10 years older than me. He went to Penn State as well. And one of his roommates was doing ROTC, Air Force ROTC. He said, "Hey, should look into ROTC." Okay, why? It was a cool career as the Air Force, and also you can get a scholarship. Like, well, that's great because scholarships are awesome. So okay, great. And then one of the bigger things is it was 9/11. I was a sophomore in high school when 9/11 happened, and my mom's from the Bronx, and so it kind of hit her pretty hard. So I was an able-bodied American. I was like, well, I can do something about this. So I decided to go do something about this. So, and that I got accepted to ROTC at Penn State. Here I am.
So, what was your first AFSC going into the Air Force?
Well, it's still my only AFSC, is being a loggie. I had no idea what I wanted to do in the Air Force. That was another reason why I joined the Air Force, was because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was like, you know what? The Air Force will let me know what I want to do. And so I decided to put my future in their hands. And when the time came to fill out my Form 53, I went to my colonel's office and said, "Sir, I have no idea what to put on this form." And he just flat out asked me, "What do you like to do?" I thought about it for a second. I'm like, "I like traveling." He's like, traveling, okay. And he looks down the list, like, logistics travels. Sounds great, sir. Go ahead. 54 countries and 7 continents later, he was not lying. So it's been a fun ride. If I had the Air Force all over again, I'd probably still pick logistics.
Out of all those places you've been, which one, would you say is number one? Gotta go back. Want to go there so bad.
Ooh.
Okay, I'll give you top 3 to make it a little bit easier.
Top 3, okay, all right. Well, my brother and I are mulling around the idea of doing an interior Antarctic expedition So we did the peninsula just before the pandemic. That was really cool. So going back to Antarctica would be awesome. Let's see. I really enjoyed Croatia. Croatia was a really cool place. We went to Split and Dubrovnik, Game of Thrones Dubrovnik kind of deal. We also went to Krka National Park, lots of waterfalls and everything. That was amazing. So that would be a cool place. And then I think I want to retire to Bora Bora. That was that was amazing. And I did not care about the room service bill on that trip either. Just like, no, here we did. I booked that vacation after my wife came back from Afghanistan. She said, "I want to go to a beach," and I started looking at beach stuff. Like, I want to go to an overwater bungalow. Like, you were just in Afghanistan. You get what you want, honey. And so I found an overwater bungalow in Bora Bora, and we spent a week there and a couple of days in Tahiti. So, amazing.
Are there any of those places that you're like, I might pass on?
Well, not going back to? Ooh, let's see. Not go back to any of those places. Can't really. I will not go back to Morocco without a guide. That we learned an important lesson. So we were in Gibraltar and took the ferry across the strait to go to Tangier for the day, and we did not hire a guide or anything, and we got harassed quite often because obviously we were looking a bit touristy, and so we got harassed by people looking to make some bucks off of the tourists by giving them informal tours or information, whatever it was, and so that got annoying real fast. So I will not go back to Morocco unless I have a actual guide. Which I should have learned the lesson in Egypt, because we had an awesome guide in Egypt, and he was Heisman on all the folks that were trying to, solicit things and whatnot. Like, no, we're good. So that one.
So if you've been all around the world with the Air Force doing these amazing things, how did you end up here at the University of Maryland teaching Air Force ROTC?
That's a good question. A lot of things had to come into place for this, and I kind of let the Air Force have some fun with it too. So when we were at Ramstein, this was an assignment before this, my wife wanted to do a program called Education with Industry, which is where you get to kind of leave the Air Force. You're still an Air Force officer and everything. You're still accruing service time, but you get to go work in an industry rather than Air Force for a year. So she went to work with FedEx and learn FedEx's logistics processes and whatnot. The goal being bring that information back to the Air Force so we can better our logistics processes and things like that, which is exactly what she did. Meanwhile, while we were at Ramstein, she wanted to go do that. I was on the edge of going reserves. Actually, I was not sold on going active duty any longer, but I wanted to maintain my status with the Air Force and everything. So I was this close to being reserves, but I said, you know what? If I could do a ROTC job, I'd stay active duty, and so I applied and was immediately denied. So the career field said nope within about 20 minutes. Like literally, I sent the email and the career field was like, nah. Okay, well I guess I'm going reserves then. Cool. A couple months later, we had our Air Force functional come by, and they still hadn't filled a bunch of the ROTC positions. And so I said, so my wife and I made a list of 20 different places. So she wanted to go do EWI and then would have to come back and go do a staff or some other job or whatever. And so we made a list of 20 different places that had an Air Force ROTC detachment opening, as well as a base where she could go to be staff or operations officer or something. And we slid that list across the table to the functional. We're like, anything on this list, we're golden. Otherwise, I'm going reserves. And he was like, well, we can make this work. Like, okay, I didn't expect that to happen. So she got picked up for EWI, and then a couple weeks later, I got a call. He's like, hey, I'm going to put you at University of Maryland if you're cool with that. And then Tiki will go to the Defense Logistics Agency in D.C. Cool. And lo and behold, got it. It's like, well, okay. And now here I am. And it's been awesome.
So for the past couple of years that you've been here, do you feel like Air Force ROTC was anything that you had anticipated to be, or was it completely different?
Yes and no. It was as much fun as I thought it would be. Hanging out with you all is a blast, and it was the whole reason I wanted to come back. Mainly because my ROTC experience, it kept me on track to graduate and whatnot. So I felt a large sense of I wanted to give back to the entity that helped get me to where I am today. So I thought that was pretty cool. So so far I've been able to do that and check the box there, and I enjoyed it. It is a lot more work than I anticipated. I didn't think it would be easy, but shoot. Like, do you realize how much administrative stuff goes into each and every one of you? Like, it is intense. So that I did not see coming, but I've still had a great time with it.
So you do have your first from beginning to end class coming up to commission. If you would have your one golden nugget of advice that you wanted to slide to all of those new LTs, what would you say that is?
Humble, credible, approachable. Remember those three things. Humble, credible, approachable. And so that's, being humble is, when you're a second lieutenant, you outrank 80% of the military from day one. That's a big responsibility. And also, pretty much everyone in the military knows more than you about almost everything. So you need to be humble. You know the fact that, yes, you're in charge, but no, you don't know everything. Credible means you gotta speak the truth, integrity first kind of deal. Be responsible for your actions. And then approachable, you're gonna be in charge of people. You're gonna be in charge of a lot of people, or maybe know people for a while, and then a couple people, whatever it is. You're a leader in the military, and you have to be able to be approachable. So your subordinates have to feel comfortable coming to you with their problems. And as we learned in class today, it's more than just work problems. It's going to be outside of work, personal problems. And you have to be that kind of person to at least allow them to come up to you and have that availability to be approachable. So that's my advice.
And now that you've done all of these things and Air Force ROTC, what is next for Major Crampton?
What is next for Major Crampton? Major Crampton is moving to Korea, going to Kunsan Air Force Base to be the operations officer at the 8th Logistics Readiness Squadron, part of the Wolf Pack, if you will, at Kunsan. Mrs. Major Crampton is going to be at Osan. She's going to be the operations officer at the port at Osan, the aerial port at Osan. After that, we have no idea. We could go to school, or one of us could go to school. Neither of us go to school. We could be commanders. We could. All of these boards are literally happening right now. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm filling out so much paperwork, not just on you guys, but on myself, for all these different boards. So we could be selected for commanders after we leave Korea, or none of that happens, and we just go on to be operations officers at a larger squadron. Because Korea is a short tour; it's a 1-year gig. And so it fits right in if we go from that to another operations squadron or another operations officer position for either one of us. So we have no idea. However, Mrs. Major Crampton works for the top logie in the Air Force directly. She's her exec. And so we feel we're in good hands. So like whatever happens, we're going to know about it, and somebody's going to let us in on the decision. So that being said, really important to network. Don't underestimate networking. So when you get to your first base, company grade, officer council, all that good stuff. Don't underestimate that power.
And I think my last question would have to be, if you were to talk to someone who's on the fence about either joining the military or the Air Force, what would be your push statement to them that they should definitely do it?
Ooh. All right, I am not the best recruiter. Although at the same time, I think I'm a pretty good recruiter because I'm gonna give it to you straight. I'm not gonna cry. That's what I liked about being a recruiting officer here. The detachment was there was no quota. Like I didn't have to, a regular recruiter at Air Force recruiting station and whatnot. They have to get so many contacts and whatnot. So they are trying to sell the Air Force. I can just give it to you straight, and whether you choose to come to the Air Force or not, that's fine. And I think that's the best way to go about this, is because the Air Force, or the military in general, is a heavy commitment. It is way more than just a 9-to-5 job. Even if you end up at like a 9-to-5 kind of area, at any time you could be doing that 9-to-5 in Afghanistan. And all of a sudden that job is a little different than what you might find here back in the States. And so I wouldn't really push anyone. I just give it to them straight. Like you gotta know what you're getting into. You gotta know that if you're looking to have a family, you are going to be separated from that family from time to time. So like I said, my wife was in EWE, the Education with Industry, at FedEx. That was in Memphis while I was here. And so once a month, one of us hopped on a plane and got to see each other for the weekend, and then went back to our jobs here. And we did that for an entire year. When I was at Ramstein, I was TDY for pretty much a year and a half, and then deployed for 6 months. So it's a little rough on relationships, and you have to have that strong communication, strong relationship, and trust to actually make that. So it's not something I'm going to actively push someone to do that hasn't quite fully grasped what it means to be in the military. And also, I mean, there's a threat of death. There are accidents, there's combat, there's all sorts of things. My job, logistics, we work with heavy machinery all the time. Heavy machinery is a big risk, no matter military, not military kind of deal. So it's a dangerous profession, and it's dangerous on more than just one front. So I'm never going to push anybody to go do it. Somebody who decides though, who's then has figured out that's what they want to do and that's interested, I'm going to say you're going to have a great time. That great time is dependent on what you put into it. So I've taken the opportunity to travel the world because that's what I want to do. I travel the world. Great, awesome, did it. I've met people at my overseas bases that go to Germany for 3 years and have not left the state of Rhineland-Pfalz. Like, what are you doing? Paris is literally 3 hours away. Amsterdam, 3.5 hours away. Go see something. Go do something. And they leave Germany not seeing any of that and say, wow, that was a terrible assignment. Well, you didn't do anything. So it depends what you put into it. So for those that have figured out that, they accept the risk and know what they're getting into, it's an awesome time, but it all depends on your motivation to go do things and challenge yourself and take some risks. It's a lot of fun, terribly rewarding, and maybe you just meet the future Mrs. or Mr. like I did at tech school. So that was kind of cool, I suppose. Oh yeah, it's cool. So, there we go.
Well, on behalf of the detachment, I want to say thank you so much for all the work that you put in here. Definitely our ROTC program would not be what it is today without your work. And of course, your humor and jokes make everything so much easier. So thank you so much for the years that you've spent here. And we're all excited to see you off into your next phase.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I've thoroughly enjoyed my time here. And that's thanks to you all. You all have really made this a lot of fun, from the times you called me Ubermeister Crampton while I walked the halls in Lederhosen, or just being in class. I really do enjoy it. And most of my friends are jealous too, so thank you for helping me make my friends jealous. But yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this interview with Major Crampton. As always, you can follow us and like all of our pages as well as our social media, and we will see you next time.